Yeah. We are back. We are back for another episode of A Dope Black Dad. It is me. I'm your host, Mr. Marcus A. Smothers, and we are here for another latest episode of A Dope Black Dad. Today's episode is extremely personal. It's extremely dear and close to my heart because we're going to be talking about a few things and we're going to be celebrating a few things today. And honestly, I'm just going to lead with this. I'm extremely nervous about it because it's my first time, I think, like having or talking about this topic publicly. I'm behind the microphone, but this will be my first time sharing this story in details. So hold on to your seats, buckle up, buckle in. There are going to be some slight pauses because this is a hard session. But again, at this podcast, we're always looking to have those hard conversations, leading those hard conversations because these conversations are needed amongst our black men. And I'm here for it. I'm not going to back down from it. I'm going to continue to thrive and create these spaces so we all can feel safe and secure to have these necessary conversations about topics that we normally would not talk about publicly. So here we go. First of all, thank you for everybody who's been watching or listening to all of our previous episodes. Remember, we are now streaming on Spotify, we are streaming on Amazon Music, we are streaming on Castbox, and for those iPhone people, we are streaming on Apple Podcasts as well. A little shameless plug for Android because I'm an Android guy. So today's episode is going to be we're going to connect two things. I am someone who runs. I am a runner, and we're going to talk about my journey about running. But I'm also going to tie this into mental health awareness too. And I know they probably seem like two far and extreme topics, but I promise you, if you stick with it, I'm going to show you how I'm going to bring those two together and pull back another layer of myself to hopefully help somebody else throughout these things. So I am a runner. Today is a very important day for me personally in my running journey because today celebrates 365 days straight of running. So that means, yeah, I'm gonna celebrate that for a minute. So every day for the past year, I've completed at least a mile of running. It has been very hard. It's been very challenging. I found myself doing some interesting things to make sure I did not let the day in without getting that mile in. And it's been an accomplishment. No, I did not start out trying to accomplish this goal. This all started with me recovering from a groin injury, actually. And as I was recovering from that, I started just doing little intervals of running. And then it just started to help more. And before I looked up, I was like, hey, you're 10 days in running every day. Okay, well, that's no big thing. And next thing I knew, I was at day 25. And then the month ended, and I'm looking back at my shout out to Garmin, my Garmin summary, and I've ran every day for the past month. So it just became a thing. And there were days I wanted to quit, but I was looking like, hey, I'm closer to 50 than I am to zero. Then I said, I'm closer to 100 than I am to zero. And so it rolled and rolled and rolled. And ironically, May the 4th be with you. We're here on May 4th, where it knocks 365 days of running. So I just want to put a plug in there and just shout myself out for that. That's an amazing thing. Also, a big shout out to my Runners Elite family. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them as I talk about why I started running. So, me starting running was not like something that I just planned to do one day. I was like, ooh, I want to run. let's just go for a run. That was not the plan. Um, I was working at Biscayne Elementary School. Shout out to the night. Shout out to Miss Bush and my favorite team over there. We, I was on the second floor, and normal day, and I was walking to my classroom teaching second grade. I got to the second floor, and I was tired. Now, listen, that means I walked up one flight of stairs, and the next thing I know, I was tired. And I don't mean tired like, whoo, dang, I shouldn't have ran up them stairs. I mean tired like gasping, winded for air. And then I said, that's not a good look for me to be this tired um, just from walking up the stairs. Believe it or not, once upon a time, I was 6'2", 250, 255 pounds. And I know if you know me, who I am, and you're looking at my body type now, and you're like, 255 pounds, where? I was 6'2", 255 pounds, and it was not a good thing. So, like most people, when we start to say we want to get in shape, what's the first thing we do? We run to the gym and we start lifting weights. So that's what I did. I got me a gym membership at the YMCA, and then I started lifting weights. I started seeing wonderful results. Like I was going to the gym sometimes twice a day. I had me a big started getting me a trainer. Big shout to Veruska. She was an amazing trainer for me. I was doing the protein shakes, the creatine, and I started bumping and getting it. I was benching more, I was squatting more, I was just doing more. And then one day I was like, I'm getting bigger, but what am I going to do with this? Like, what am I going to do with all of this muscle? Because it wasn't a matter of me just doing it to be healthy. I was just doing it. And so I was like, I don't want to just be real big and cut like this for no reason. And I can't button up my top button because I'm so big. So somebody told me, it's like, next time you do your workout, run on the treadmill for a little bit. I was like, all right. So after I finished my workout, I went and got on the treadmill, and I just felt so good. So the next time I went to the gym, I finished my workout and I went and I started running. Big shout to YMCA on Cleveland Road. And I started and I went and ran around the block. And the freedom and the peace that I found while I was running, it was like no other. Like lifting weights and spending time with your headphones in your gym, it can be a place of peace too. But it was something about once I got outside and was running in that natural air, it just became my place of peace. And so running became therapeutic for me. So that's why I started running, because it became a place of a peace for me. And so it allowed me to get rid of stress. It allowed me to help me deal with my day. It allowed me to just communicate with myself. It gave me some meditation time that I really wasn't getting through lifting. So lifting didn't become as much as a need or a big as I wanted to, like running. And so I decided that I wanted to start spreading myself, because I wanted to do more with running. I was doing good. I was having some good times. I'll never forget. I signed up for a race, and I'll never forget this. It was the Emerald Trail 5K, the very first one that they did. And I said, I'm going to get this 5K. I'm feeling good today. And the gun went off. Pow! We was right outside the courthouse, and we was going to end at Andrew Robinson, I believe. And I was just like, pow! I was gone, getting it. And I didn't really know what I was doing like that running. But I hadn't did the Gate River run before, so I felt like I was out here. I was going to thug it out and go. So I'm out here getting it, thinking that I'm doing something. And out of the right side of my view is this dude, this black guy, just came running out of nowhere. And I never forget it. It was this black guy, bald, and he had this massive beard. And if you know me, you already know who I'm talking about. He had this massive beard, and his beard was just flowing while he was getting it. And I'm just sitting here like, this dude is moving. And I'm sorry, I'm not used to seeing a lot of African Americans in certain running arenas in Jacksonville at that time. And so I saw this dude getting it, and I just thought I was doing something good. And he was moving. And his name is Chris. His name is Chris, and we called him Beer. And when I saw him striding and just going like it was nothing, I was like, I need to find out who this dude was. Now, granted, he got to the finish line way before I got to the finish line, but I did finish. And when I got to the finish line, I saw him and a group of other um, Black Americans, African American people who looked like me, and they were all connected and they was enjoying their run together, enjoying their race. And I was like, I want to be a part of this community. And so I introduced myself. I think at that time I introduced myself to Brian. I think Brian Williams was the person that I introduced myself to, and I told him who I was, and I asked him about the group, and I introduced myself to everybody, and then they invited me to, I followed them on Instagram, and one thing just led to another, and it was hard for me at first because I may seem like a very outgoing person, but I don't really do just introductions like that. But I knew this was something that I wanted in my life, so I introduced myself to them, and since then to this day, we have become more like a family than anything. We hold each other accountable. We're there for each other. We do community service work. We support each other in more than just running, but in our personal lives with family. We're just there for each other. And I know right now my running life would not be anything without Runners Elite. So I just want to give a moment and a shout out to Runners Elite because that family aspect that they gave me is like no other. Like we're big on accountability, we're big on competition, and most importantly, we have representation. And I don't mean we're just out there like we are out there getting medals, top age group. So shout out to Runners Elite. If you are looking for a running group or running community, look us up. We're open to everybody. We are a non-judgment zone, and we enjoy fellowship. We enjoy running. We have all ages. We have runners. We have walkers. We have run walkers. We have strollers. We have anything that you want. I would advise you to like link up with us on Facebook or Instagram, Runners Elite, and that's my family. So as I continued to run, it just became so therapeutic for me. It was my outlet. It was one of the things that now was one of the highest priorities in my life. As a father, as a husband, I needed that outlet to help me in my everyday life. Um, so now, as I'm a runner, to this day, I've completed 3 marathons. I'm training for a half marathon in Chicago in June that I'm extremely excited for. But a turning point in my running life was in 2020. And usually, immediately when we hear 2020, we automatically go back to COVID because 2020 was a turning point year for the entire world, not just a select group of people. I tell people all the time that COVID equaled the playing field. It it showed everybody that it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter your religion, it doesn't matter your race. This was something that was affecting everybody. And so and so my 2020 was a little different My early part of 2020 was a lot different because I spent the early part of 2020 recovering from a neck surgery. And I'm going to tell you what the surgery was, and I'm going to give you a little backstory to tell you how I got there. So, if you know anything about the medical field or if you know anything about the neck or the spine, I'll tell you this. I had to have a triple fusion neck surgery in 2020. How did we get there? I have to take you back to 2001. Back in 2001, I was in a really, really, really big, a major car accident back in 2001. And in the car accident, the car that I was driving in, it was totaled. And I think my adrenaline was so high that I did not even go to the hospital to get checked. And another reason why I didn't go to the hospital to get checked because it was the same day as my grandmother's wake or her viewing, and I didn't want to put another thing on top of that. So I never went to the hospital to get checked. And back in 2020 and back in 2001, and remind you, I had this neck surgery in 2020. So if you're doing the math from 2001 to 2020, I had a lot of lingering issues that showed up in various ways throughout the years. And a couple of ways that it showed up was I started having back problems. I didn't know why. Um, I started going to a podiatrist because I thought, it was the shoes that I was wearing. I used to wear boat shoes a lot. And so I thought that was contributing to my problem. Um, I used to have tingling feelings in my fingertips to the point where anything that I touched was like a sharp pain stabbing me in my fingertips. I remember going to a neurologist. I don't know if it was a neurologist, but a nerve specialist to do some nerve testings on my fingers, but they could not find anything. I spent some money on massage therapy. There was a lot of things that I just was just attributing to life. I never attributed to the accident back in 2001. And one day in 2018, 2019, I said that this is going too far because my back and my neck just started hurting so bad. Like I changed mattresses, and some people like to say you're just getting old. You're just getting old. Pump your brakes. I'm not that old. I'm 40 now, but I refuse to believe that my body was breaking down like that at such an early age because I'm in good shape. I'm a runner. I'm very cautious about what I eat, and those types of things. So it couldn't just been that I was getting older. So I started going to a chiropractor, and big shout to Gowan McGowan. I'm not paid. No one is paying me to give out these shout outs. I'm just giving people shout outs because they were great at the moments at the time. So I just like to give respect to when it's due. Big shout outs to McGowan. And I went and I started getting physical therapy, and I started, working out different things. And he know his team noticed some things that we were working on. So I would go a couple of days a week. And what happened was I would go to these sessions, I would leave, and probably by the time I got in my car, the pain was right back. And so I told him, I was like, something is happening. And then we started doing, he put me on a machine to try to stretch it, try to figure out what was going on, to try to stretch my back or my spine, to try to align some things. I did alignment after alignment after alignment, and nothing was working. And I remember one day, I went back to his office and I told him what was going on. And I told him, I said, this pain that I'm feeling can only be, it reminds me of when I had a hernia operation. And that was the type of pain that I was feeling in my back. I said, I feels like something is maybe a herniated or whatever. And so immediately I went to my primary care physician, and we ended up getting an MRI. Got the MRI, took the results back to my primary care physician. Shout out for those of us who do not have a primary care physician. I really implore you and beseech you to find you a primary care physician that you like, that you can trust, and that you can have and build relationships with. Right now, shout out to Dr. Clark. He is my primary physician now. Um, and so immediately when I took that to my primary care physician at that time, he looked at the results and said, "You're going to need surgery." I was like, "Well, how you know I'm gonna need surgery?" He was like, looking at this, he said, "I'm gonna refer you to somebody, but you're probably going to need surgery in order to fix these issues that you have within your spine and then within your neck." So I went to the doctor that he referred me to, and he said, "Yeah, this has been going on for so long." And he, at first question he asked me, he said, "Have you ever been in a car accident?" And I said, "Yeah, back in 2001." And he said, "I can tell that these damages or the issues that you have been traveling over time. This isn't just one thing. So everything, the symptoms that I had over the years were attributed right to this moment here." And so I said, "So what options do I have?" And he said, "I can give you some pain meds." Um, I said, "Well, we've tried all of that. What do we have next? What else can we do?" He said, "Well, I can give you some shots in your spine or in your neck to help with it." I told him that's not gonna work. I said, "I'm sorry. We not. I'm not about to keep doing shots because my thing was I don't want to get hooked on this to modify the pain or subside the pain, and the root of the issues never get fixed." And he said, "Well, if that's the route you don't want to go," he said, "we're recommending surgery." And he said it that, and he did let me know straight up that it was going to be a major surgery. And my wife and I had the conversation about it. And I think it was probably one of the hardest decisions that I made because this was going to be a major surgery. Like if you know me, I've had knee surgery before because I tore my ACL, MCL, and my meniscus before, but this is different. Like we're talking about you going into my neck. Like you're having to shift my spine. And I had went back and did research on what a fusion neck surgery was. Um, there was still some, sometimes you don't need to look online or consult with too many people because Wikipedia will have you out there planning your own funeral just because you got a headache. So sometimes we don't need to consult so many people because everybody's experiences is different. So I had a lot of people telling me it was a big risk. There could be some lingering issues. The surgery might not go well, but it was one of those things where I did not want my quality of life to linger. Um, and it reminded me something that I remember with my grandmother. My grandmother had a heart condition, and my mom tells me about it, and I remember about it, where my grandmother did not, she opted out of having surgery. I believe she had a hole in her heart, and she opted out of having surgery. And if I remember the stories correctly, it was that she would still have life, but she wouldn't have quality of life if she did not have the surgery. And she elected to not have the surgery. And that was the thing that was ringing in my ear. And I have my girls, and I'm not trying to be not able to do these things with my kids. And I don't want to run, but it's like, do I want to risk this, not having this, and then I have to stop running? Or I do this surgery and now I'm back in the game. So we decided to have the surgery, and I will never forget this entire process in 2020. So here we go. January of 2020, my wife and I, we went on our first cruise. On that cruise, a Sunday while we were on that cruise, Kobe died. And I was just like, not in the middle of my cruise. Come on, Kobe. And I'll never forget that. And then we got back home, and then February came the day after the Super Bowl is when I had my surgery. So now we're in February of 2020. The world started to shift probably right around spring break for students. So I'm like the first week of February, I'm having my surgery, and the surgery was a success, as you know, because I'm still here talking about it. Um, and going through that process of recovery was like the hardest thing that I've ever done. My knee surgery was bad, but my neck surgery was bad because there was nothing no one could do to help me. So let me give you an image of what's going on in my house now. You have me, who is now recovering from a neck surgery, full neck brace, can't really do anything for himself, completely now depending on other people to do things for me. And now spring break comes and COVID is now running rapid. So you have me who can't do anything in the house. You have my wife who is a teacher who's now shifting to online classes. We have Madison pre K now shifting to online classes. You have Mariah second grade shifting to online classes. Malia sixth grade shifting to online classes. And you have Michaela sophomore shifting to online classes. And there's nothing that I can do to help. So now the the very things that I considered to be my identity as a man have now been taken away from me. Now for other people, those things that you feel like that define you could be different. But for all of us, when those things that we feel like define us, or we feel like we get our biggest strengths, or we get our biggest whatever from, when those things have now been taken away from us, we now start to question our existence. And when I say question our existence, it's a why am I here? Why should I be here? There's nothing that I can do for anybody. I can't walk. I can't run. I can barely be a parent. I can't be a husband. I can't really support my house. I'm just wasting space. And so remember I told you I was going to connect my running to mental health awareness. So here we are. For so when you grow up a certain way, you we create biases, or we have biases that are some are known and some are not known, but we create these things about people. And one of the things that I had in my mind was I was very judgmental of those individuals who talked about committing suicide, or those individuals who may have committed suicide. I was always so judgmental of them because I didn't understand, why would you do something like that? Like, you're extremely selfish. That's the dumbest thing you do. What in the world will cause you to commit suicide? But during my recovery process, I connected with that. I remember one day I was sitting in my chair. I could not sleep. I wasn't hungry. I had been up for probably 26 hours straight in pain. I never knew what a spasm was until this. And my doctor was like, I can't give you any more medicine. I can't give you all of these pain pills. He was like, Marcus, this is your body healing itself, and you have to go through this process so your body can take care of itself. And that's what's happening. I wasn't trying to hear that. I said, I'm in this much pain. I can't do anything with my life. Everything that I defined myself as is now gone, and I can't do it. Why am I here? Let's pop a couple of these pills and just go. So for 20, and when I tell you, I'm not exaggerating about these 26 hours. I knew every TV show in every rotation, every news channel, every news anchor, everybody. I knew what was going to come on TV at any given point of the day because that's all I could do was sit in my chair and watch TV. For those 26 hours on this day specifically, if you ever saw me during my recovery, you would just sit there, you would just see my neck and my arm just spaz. And it was so painful. It was so painful. It locked up and I could not do anything. Like I tried to get a massage, it nothing worked. And through that day, through those 26 hours, I was ready to check myself out of here. I figured, I take a couple of these pills, I can drift away, and my family will probably just account it to recovering, and I'm out of here. Very selfish, but it was my reality at the moment. And the other side of it is asking yourself, well, why didn't you? Was because of my faith and my family. I really understood at that moment that if I feel like my family is struggling now as I recover, how will they be now knowing that their dad or their husband or their friend is now gone? And I was not about to put that burden on anyone else. And that night, my conversation with God was so intense. And I was like, God, if I can make it through this moment, if I can make it through this moment and through this process, I will know that I can do hard things. So if you ever hear me say I can do hard things, this is where that came from. This was me in the midst of looking at suicide in the face and saying, I can do hard things, not just for myself, but for my family. Not just for myself, but for my girls. I can now coach them through hard things in life. I can now coach my friends through hard things in life. I can now coach people who may not like me, but I got a word for them or I got a hope for them. I can now coach you through you can do hard things. It's called a hard thing because it's hard. It's not called a hard thing because it's easy. It's hard. This shit, my bad. This was hard. And I knew, a lot of people came over to see me. A lot of people came over to check on me, and I appreciate them. My homeboy Leonard Jones, who is no longer here with us, he passed away. I don't think a day went by without Leonard Jones coming by here and checking on me. Even I didn't even know he was coming. Some days he probably came by. I didn't even know he was here. Between Leonard Jones, Dominic Rose, my boy, them boys came by every single day and checked on me. And of course, like my brothers, they came by and checked on me every day. My cousins, they came by and checked on me every day. My cousin Kim, my brother Sam, Sugarman, Eric, Leanne, um, big shout to Sister Jones, Mother Jones, Deacon Jones. Man, my community came through and helped me out. But those 26 hours when I was sitting in that chair, I ain't care about none of that. I was ready to say goodbye. And like the older generation used to say, "But God," it was a "but God" moment for me. And I had a lot of other issues that I was battling with myself from childhood, issues with my dad, issues with things that I did not forgive myself from earlier in my life. I'm gonna tell you this straight up. We mental health is a. I'm not calling mental health awareness or mental health a trend, but I'm going to speak from my standpoint. Mental health was not something that was talked about or was like a issue or front facing thing for me as I was growing up in my life. Not even counseling, therapy. Those were not words, and they're words that are not used in most black households. I grew up. I grew up in a church where it was a pray about it. The demons are coming. Fast on it. Pray on it. That ain't nothing but the devil. Those types of things. And I understand what it was at that time, but there was no family counseling or you need to really talk to somebody about these things. It was all, I gave it over to the Lord and He worked it out. Oh, yeah. And He does work out a lot of things for us. He works out our life. But as I've gotten older, I've understand that God put therapists in the world for a reason. God put counselors in the world for a reason. And I'm here to tell you right now, I have finally signed up for my first, I'm starting my personal counseling sessions next week. When I tell you I'm nervous about it, but I'm excited at the same time, I'm 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 anxious. I know that there are a lot of things in my life that I've experienced that I haven't shared. We always talk about, your spouse is your best friend. If you can't talk to your spouse about anything, who else can you talk to? I'm not gonna lie to you. There's some situations, some things that happen in my life I don't talk to my wife about. I don't talk to nobody about. And some of it is I don't want her to feel like I'm less than, even though she may not feel like that. But at some point, you just get tired of complaining to your wife about it because you're supposed to be the man, and that's a thing that I was taught. Men supposed to do this. Men supposed to do that. Men supposed to lead. Men supposed to not cry. Men not supposed to do these things. Man, this man hurting. Who go help this man that's hurting? Ask that. Since I can't talk about it, what am I supposed to do about it? And again, running became that outlet for me, but running only is going to take me but so far. I know for Marcus, Marcus has gotten to the point right now where Marcus needs he needs a counselor. He needs to go see a therapist. And I'm proud to say that I'll be starting that process next week. I don't know what layers of my life are going to be unfolded. I don't know what things are going to come out of it, but I'm here for it. There's some things that have happened to me just since I've turned 40 that I'm like, bruh, you waited to 40 to start experiencing this stuff? Or just like with my neck surgery, there was something that probably happened in 1983 when you were born. There's something that could have happened in 85. There's something that could have been happening in 88, 93, 98, 2000, 2001. There's some things that could have been happening in your life for all of these years. And because you never addressed it the way it needed to be addressed, now it's hitting you. Just like that neck surgery, just like that accident that happened in 2001, and you didn't get healed from it until 2020. That was 19 years of unaddressed pain. That was 19 years of coping for things. That was 19 years of trying to massage something that needed to be surgically repaired. That was 19 years of taking pain meds for something that needed to be surgically repaired by a specialist who knew what instruments that was needed to put your life back together or to put your neck back together. Someone who was skilled to take the intimate parts of you and maneuver them and shift them in a way to take them apart and be able to put them back together without you having any lingering issues or any lingering side effects of a surgery that no one right now could tell that you had unless you tell them. Ladies and gentlemen, God does that, and through the help of physical therapy and through the help of counseling and therapists, they do the same thing. We have to be able to trust. I'm able to now trust. And I'll probably be sharing some of the journey that I'm going through with that. But as always, I'm here for it. And y'all know what I'm about to say. I'm going to thug it out and we're going to make it work. And I believe that on the other side of this, I believe there's a whole nother part of my life that I haven't even began to enjoy. I believe there's a whole nother part of my life that of Marcus that hasn't even been able to be discovered because I haven't allowed myself to lay down mentally. Catch that. I haven't allowed myself to lay down mentally. As I was growing up, I would find myself laying in the laps of women because that was something that I was conquering. Because that is something that I felt like I was good at. So it was easy for me to lay that. So now, and I was very strategic when I decided on who my therapist was going to be. I said I wanted a black man. I know Marcus. I'm not gonna be productive if I go to therapist with a woman because Marcus, the way Marcus mind shapes up, he's going to go in there trying to prove something. He's going to go in there trying to do this. I need to allow myself to become face to face with something just like me and allow it to challenge me, cut me with nothing attached to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I wrap up this episode on tonight, I thank you all for sharing and working and being here with me. As always, I promise this will always be a very authentic show, an authentic podcast, and I will always leave my heart on the microphone. Please leave your comments. Please send me messages. We have more to talk about. We have more comments. We have more issues that we're going to just continue to. I told someone, I believe my podcast is now turning into a diary more than anything else. So if this connects with you, share it with someone else that connects with them. As always, I love you all. I appreciate your time. And till next time, Adult Black Dad. You can always find us streaming on Spotify, Amazon Music, Castbox, and Apple Podcasts as well. Yo, I'm out.